What's going on, guys? Welcome to our review on this channel. In today's video we're talking about the iPhone 8. Now this is one of the more popular topics of conversation with any of the smartphones out there because Apple's a really popular company. I'm sure a lot of you guys out there know that. Even for people that use Android, you see how Apple fans get with the iPhone and other Apple products. The iPhone 8 is going to be a really popular phone. Now, one of the things that I heard that was interesting about this phone is that they think, people in the industry, that this phone is going to be one of the most expensive phones out of any of the smartphones out there, including the fact it could be the most expensive iPhone ever. Now, if that's the situation, this is the most expensive iPhone that Apple has ever manufactured, I think Apple's going to try to justify it with a lot of changes to the phone. But this is the issue I have with the iPhone. First of all, it has iOS. I'm not a fan of iOS. I've talked about that before. You're going to get so many different manufacturers out there for Android devices compared to a company like Apple who manufactures the iPhone once a year. But with the iPhone, the changes that they would make to actually justify spending a lot of money on the manufacturing, and of course this is what's also going on because the manufacturers they work with, those are the companies who are actually manufacturing the hardware, they're charging Apple more money for those parts to the phone. That's what I've been reading. So then Apple has to look at the situation again and say, you know what? Those companies are charging us more money. We want to sell this phone as a very unique phone, something different. Of course, Apple says think different. And when you compare their company to other companies out there, Apple is a company that has brand loyalty and also they call their products premium. So they are going to explain to consumers out there why they increase the price and of course try to get people to buy that phone with the way they advertise. And some people might say, hey, that's really obvious. But let's think about this. How many other companies out there could manufacture a phone and then it's going to be the most expensive of all the phones and then people are going to still buy the phone without many questions about it? That's what I'm thinking is going to happen. Because if they do increase the price of the phone, which could easily happen, because again, if Apple doesn't make a lot of changes to the iPhone, then they can continue selling the phones the same way they have as before. And I don't really think that's the best way to sell a phone because you have to make changes to the phone, you have to innovate. People are continuously comparing phones, so I just think Apple has to do that at this point in time. But when we're talking about the price of the phone, if it is the most expensive phone, I think even easily the phone could be the most popular phone. Now that does not mean it's the best phone, at least not to me, because Apple has to innovate a lot with their iPhones right now because the iPhone 7, 7 Plus, obviously if you compare it to the Galaxy Note 8, which could be a lot different than even the S8 and S8 Plus with the hardware, so it could be better hardware. Of course you might get similar screen technology, but we're talking about even a better phone. Now if you compare that to what Apple has with the iPhone 7, 7 Plus, it looks old and outdated. I mean, no offense to them, but that's what it looks like. Now, as far as cost and the hardware, I still don't think that Apple's gonna have better hardware than Samsung completely. If Samsung innovates with the Galaxy Note 8, which I think they're going to do, and it's gonna have fantastic hardware. I know with Apple, sometimes what they do is they get parts to phones, even at a time with Samsung, where Samsung wasn't adding the same hardware to their own phones. So there was a point in time where Samsung had the Galaxy phones, they were manufacturing hardware for Apple, and Apple had the better hardware. So in this situation, I think Apple is trying to work with manufacturers, I'm gonna say copy, Samsung and other companies out there to try to get the best phone. And this could easily explain why there's been delays with the iPhone. And there have been delays. And there's a lot of things going on with the iPhone. Apple wants to create a fantastic phone, it's obvious. But with all these delays, and if they make this phone more expensive, you guys better create one of the most amazing phones out there. Because if you don't, I'm not saying that many Apple fans are just gonna go buy a Samsung phone, a Galaxy phone. It doesn't work that way. A lot of Apple fans want to see what Apple's going to manufacture and they'll buy almost anything from that company. No offense to Apple, but they'll buy almost any product from your company because you have that kind of loyalty with your fans. But in this industry, it's so obvious that that Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus looks a lot more amazing than any other phone on the market right now. And we're talking about the design of the phone. Then you talk about the hardware. Another thing I'm noticing with what people are saying about the new iPhone, the iPhone 8, is possibly a lot less bezel to the phone. And that would make a lot more sense because if you see what the Galaxy S8 and S8 Plus look like, these phone manufacturers had to innovate where they can't have so much bezel to the phone because it looks outdated again. They remove that physical button. There's not so much bezel to the phone, so the screens are a lot better. And also the OLED screens they're talking about. because they control the manufacturing, but to get all that hardware and put it together, they probably really want to make sure they have the best hardware available, where people that purchase the iPhone are going to be convinced to buy the phone and spend that additional money if the phone is more expensive. Now, this is not a guarantee that all this is going to happen, because I can remember when I was talking about the iPhone previously, before they manufactured the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus, I was like, you know what? Apple should manufacture a phone and remove the physical button. But they didn't do that, and the phones look similar to the previous versions of the iPhone. Then you saw Google with even HTC manufacturing the Pixel phones that looked similar to the iPhone 7 and 7 Plus. So these companies could be unique in certain ways, but also predictable. So I don't think in this situation though, Apple should be predictable at all, because you have fans out there that are seeing what Samsung is manufacturing, and I continue to also say that. And I think that Samsung is leading the way with manufacturing. So at some point in time, you have to make changes. I know you guys don't like to do that all the time, because you have companies like Apple who can sell their phones without a lot of changes. And when the company gets used to that, not too often do they want to make significant enough changes where people are going to say, hey, you know, we really need to see what Apple is doing here, because it's a lot different than before. And the reason why Apple's like this is because they realize that if they create a lot of changes to the iPhone, then essentially it's not really an iPhone anymore. It could be resembling a phone like the Galaxy S8 or even the S8 Plus. And when Samsung manufactures Galaxy Note 8, I really think that Apple's trying to prepare for all of that, because when you compare all of these phones, there's no way you can continue to manufacture the same kind of phones if you don't innovate and allow people to know that you're trying to improve the phone itself. Is it guaranteed that the phone is going to be the most expensive iPhone? There's no guarantees in this industry, but I really think though, out of all the companies, Apple could justify increasing the price of the phone. Should they increase the price of the phone? I don't really think Apple has to price their phones that way, but they have that many fans of their phones. So if other manufacturers of the hardware are charging them more money to manufacture the phone, they're gonna articulate this in a way, I think, to just say they're innovating the phone and that's the best phone out there. They're not gonna explain to people and say, hey, you know, other companies are charging us more money. If you notice at any Apple event, you're gonna see the Apple stamp on all of their hardware, although they don't manufacture it themselves. So that's just how Apple sells their phones. And in this situation though, I think it would be a lot better, even if they increase the price of the phone, that you see a lot of changes with that phone. I think it's the best idea even for fans of Apple, because you want to see changes with the phone. You don't want to see the same kind of phone all the time, even if it's the same price, because then you're going to have a situation where other companies are innovating and you're noticing people using virtual reality right now while Apple is trying to figure out if they're going to remove a physical button to the phone. See, that's the situation that confuses people when they look at Apple. You have Apple, then you have companies like Samsung, even with Huawei, and these companies are innovating. But I would like to know what you guys think about all this. Let me know in the comments what you think about the iPhone 8. Of course, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up. I'll see you guys next video. Peace out.